All right, let's do this. Welcome to Chasing Knockouts with me, Chase Watson. On today's episode, my brother Reese is returning. We're going to be breaking down the pay-per-view of the upcoming Masvidal versus Usman fight, so that's going to be a great time to listen to that. But first, it's episode 3. I appreciate each and every single one of you for listening. We had people listening in Louisiana, Washington, Maryland, all over the United States, and I really am so thankful for that, and I want to see this thing continue to grow. So please subscribe, review this, tell your friends, tell your family. Also, I want to plug in, we're going to be doing shirts. We're going to do pocket tees. We're going to be doing a classic Chasing Knockouts logo. We're going to be doing a Fuck Cancer shirt. And we're also going to be doing a I Respect That shirt. So that's coming soon. If you would like one, like the pre-order one, DM me. And it's Chase Watson. And we'll set something up for you and get it out to you as soon as we can. So just getting right into this, we're going to be breaking down this main card of this Whitaker-Gastelum fight. Very boring fight night. It just drug out forever. It lasted what felt like 20 years. I know there was a million decisions on here. 2 finishes, but I am going to pat myself on the back real quick because Gerald Meerschaert finished his opponent by submission. I called that on this podcast. I also want to say shout out to Tony Gravely. I did not know this before, but he's from Magna Vista, which is near where I'm from. So he got the KO finish of the first fight of the night, starting this fight card out, which what I thought was going to be a great fight night. I called both of those finishes, so pat myself on the back. Also, went 8-2. Very proud of that. One of my better nights that I've had in a while. The 2 fights I lost, I'm going to address them here. I'm going to address the Abdul Razak Al Hassan one later when I just break down all 5 of the fights in the main card. The one I want to address right now is a Jessica Penne versus Lupi Godinez. The problem with this one right here was a split decision. It could have really went either way. Jessica Penne kind of held on for her life the entire time trying to submit Lupi because she didn't want to deal with that stand-up game. At one point, Lupi literally picked her up and power slammed her like Kevin Nash right then and there. They should have just waved the match off. It was over with. And I just watching that entire fight, I really thought Godinez had that fight in the bag. I really wasn't sure why it was a split decision. I going back and watching it, some I could see why people think Penne won, but I just don't think you give it to her there. Godinez was just dominating that fight in my opinion. But besides the point, we're gonna hop in now to the main card. First fight of the night, Luis Pena versus Alexander Munoz. This was a split decision as well. Too many damn split decisions. Some were right. Some of the judges, I didn't know what the fuck they were talking about. But this one right here was a split decision. When I took notes on this fight, my first line on there was, holy shit. This fight was so much fucking fun to watch. It was lots of strikes. Pena was going out there flying you in the face. Spinning kicks, spinning attacks. It doesn't matter. I thought they were going to be grappling the entire time. Straight striking battle, which made it so much fun to watch. I thought this was going to win fight of the night before the Whitaker-Gastelum fight came on later. But this right here just makes me so happy starting the main card off. It got it really exciting, really pumped up, and then it kind of fell flat afterwards with a lot of more boring fights later on. But shout out to Luis Pena getting on that win column again. Violent Bob Ross, shout out to him, one of my favorites. So next fight, Tracy Cortez defeated Justine Kish. Another split decision, which this is mind-boggling to me, actually. This is one where it just doesn't make sense to me how they roll this 29-28 in Kish's way when the other judges ruled this 29-28 Cortez, which I agree with, and then 30-27 Cortez. The 30-27 Cortez, I don't really understand. I think in the last round, Kish got it, but regardless, when a judge ruling at 30-27, I don't see how you give 2 rounds to Kish, but whatever. In this fight, Cortez was punishing with the ground game. She's one of my favorite up-and-coming stars. She's a contender alum, like I said in the past. She's dominant. She's super marketable. She's just going to be great. A little sketchy, like I said, in the 3rd round with the strike. She got rocked a little bit, but I think she won the fight clear-cut. They said split. I say unanimous decision. Regardless, Cortez got the big win right here. She hit 3 takedowns like I said was going to happen. She is great with the wrestling. No one can handle her wrestling right now with her climbing up the ranks. I think she's going to get a top 10 fighter coming up. I think that might be a little too much for her with her missing weight here, but I say you give her that shot, build her a little bit more fast, and give that 125 division another challenger and make this prospect get bigger. The next fight, which I said I was going to talk about, was a Jacob Malkoun fight defeating Abdul Razak Al Hassan. Abdul Razak Al Hassan was the biggest favorite on this fight card. You could basically pencil that one in as an automatic winner, no questions asked, whatever. Clearly, Jacob Malkoun did not appreciate that and just dominated Alhassan bell to bell. I think UFC was really trying to give Alhassan what they thought was a pretty easy fight, just to get back in the win column, build his stardom back up because he's vicious KOing everybody. But he clearly can't wrestle. He's from the Kevin Holland wrestling school where no one can wrestle. So he got taken down so damn much. I looked back, I couldn't have taken him down at that point. It was just so freaking terrible. He needs to figure out a wrestling coach. Like I said, go to Dagestan with Kevin Holland because you're not going to be in the UFC much longer. I think he realized right then and there when Malkoun got the unanimous decision 30-27 across the boards, he fell onto his knees crying, kissed the canvas, walked out. I think he realized his time in the UFC was ending right there. He will be back. He's too exciting not to be back. He's KOing everybody. At the end of the fight, with about 10 seconds left, he had a Hail Mary shot to Malkoun right on the ground and it missed him by a hair. That would have hit him. That would have knocked him out and saved his ass. But honestly, in my opinion, thankfully it did not. Even though I lost this and lost money on this fight, I'm just happy that he's going to get better. He's going to go to the general area of wrestling. He has to fix that to even compete in the UFC. Malkoun was 4-1 coming to this fight after getting knocked out in 18 seconds in his first fight. And then he comes in there and just dominates Alhassan from bell to bell with just wrestling him the entire time. Because clearly, why would you strike with someone that dangerous? But Alhassan, sorry, bub. It's over for you in the UFC, in my opinion. Maybe not, but that's just what I'm thinking. You'll be back. Just get better on the ground. You and Kevin Holland need to work on that together because both are exciting fighters. Going on to the co-main event, it was Andrei Arlovski flashing back, 42 years old, I believe, with his 20th win against Chase Sherman. It's absolutely crazy to me that he's still banging off these wins. Absolutely crazy how he's that old and still that dominant. He had some flashes from his old strikes, which is really cool. I thought really, though, it could have went either way in this fight, even though they gave unanimous decision to Arlovski. I was happy about it. Picked him at underdog. But definitely the old Arlovski, he got his 20th win, the most of all time in the UFC heavyweight, which is fucking impressive because you look at these heavyweights, their shelf life is just not there at all. I mean, you see Stipe, but he only fights once a year. Arlovski's fought probably, I think, 3 times in the last year, I believe. I might have that stat wrong, but he's fought a lot in this last year. Yes, he's lost in one, but he's still knocking off these contenders, and I think that's really exciting. I'm not sure who he's got next. I'm hoping he retires soon. It's a little scary. This man is really old. Yes, he's still winning, but I really am worried about him getting one vicious knockout and it just turns his light off and changes his life forever. But we're gonna go to the main event here. This Robert Whittaker versus Kevin Gastelum. Robert Whittaker put a clinic on, a masterclass. Gastelum had no answers for anything Whittaker was throwing out there, just piecing him up. He hit him with a jab to a head kick, and Gastelum just didn't even see that coming. And this gives Izzy a reason to fight him again. He looked way better than he looked in the Izzy fight. He didn't look timid. He didn't look scared. He was just banging out the entire time against a guy in Kelvin Gastelum that gave Izzy one of his hardest title defenses. And I think this right here, you have to give Whittaker the next title shot. Yes, Marvin Vettori was sitting in the stands, but I think he realized at the end of that fight that Robert Whittaker got that. He tried to bring on the broadcast later that Whittaker was saying, he doesn't want to fight in it. Whittaker stopped his ass real fucking quick and said, no, I was not saying that. I just needed some time off for my kid. Just a dominant fight, though, all in all. This is what I think we go from this middleweight division. You got to go Whittaker versus Izzy again. This is just clear-cut, easy decision. Come on, Dana White, book that fight. If you want to switch some stuff up, let's say you give the co-main event Brunson versus Vettori. That fight right there decides the next title contender. Then, if you want to spice things up a little bit more, if Paulo Costa's going to be out longer, we don't know how long he's going to be out because he had some problems with the flu symptoms. If he's long enough to be out to fight Darren Till, put that fight together. Then that winner of that fight right there gets the next title shot. Pretty easy scenario here. I think that's going to be all around the best middleweight tournament, quote unquote. But that's basically it for this main card. I didn't want to break this down too much. I actually had this on mute the entire time. I was watching the fuckery of this the Jake Paul versus Ben Askren. I'll get into that later in the show with Reese. But I also want to say, all in all, this fight card was kind of boring, but the finishes were fun. We're cut short in the Romanov Espino fight. Romanov won, thankfully. that was my lock of the night. I'll take that even though it's by a shitty lock of the night. We kind of lost a couple of fights that were going to be good ones. Jakar Close pulled out of his fight. At first, undisclosed reasons, but then it came to that when Jeremy Stevens pushed him at weigh-ins, he was hit so hard, he basically got whiplash, and that's why he pulled out. Kind of sucks. People were calling him a baby over that, but when you're that dehydrated, your brain's not there. I can understand that. Stevens is a wild fucking man, and I don't know if Close was really looking at in that aspect where he thought he was gonna get beat. I don't think any fighter thinks they're gonna get beat. But Stevens really was going to tear his ass up, and it's sad to not see that fight right there. I really hope, though, they give both those guys at least their show money because they did make the weight. They did show up on weight, but that's still to come. I'm not really sure what's going to happen with that. Also, we lost another fight at the beginning. It was the Zara Farron versus Nunez fight. Farron asked if they could have a little bit more weight, and Nunez agreed to this because I think Nunez kind of figured that she was going to win. Farron came and weighed in 15 pounds, give or take, I've seen different reports, over the bantamweight limit. She would have missed weight at featherweight. That's just unacceptable. I do not see her after that stunt right there in the UFC anymore. I didn't really see her really past this fight. But all in all, don't see her there anymore. This fight card in general, pretty boring. A lot of decisions, too many split decisions. It cleared up a lot of people's eyes in this middleweight. So that's the biggest takeaway. They won fight of the night. Shout out to Jared Mearshart and Tony Gravely for winning bonuses. So I'm really happy this fight card was over. I was counting my stars once this was done because it was absolutely boring.
Round 2, fight.
Okay, so now we're going to be breaking down the pay-per-view. My brother's actually going to be in here a little later to break down the main card. But right now I'm going to go through every single fight. You can skip through this if you want, but this is where the money's being made is the beginning of these fight cards. So the first fight of the night is Liang versus Carnelossi. I'm probably butchering these names, but whatever. Carnelossi is coming off her debut loss against Angela Hill, which is a fucking killer. So clearly that's a tough one to judge, but she draws a newcomer in Na Liang. Both of these fighters are relatively unknown. The first 5 fights of this fight card, they didn't have a Wikipedia page, so it was pretty difficult to actually research on. But they're trying to break into this 115 division to be new stars. So Carnelossi has 2 losses, who are Angela Hill and Amanda Hebos. Both of these fighters are big stars in the UFC now, whether that be just well known or top of their weight class. It just brings more respect to Carnelossi's name. This fight is a clash of styles, though. Carnelossi is looking to bang with Liang in this fight, winning 7 of her 12 wins by KO. Liang's looking to grapple, submitting 7 of her 13 people. So, at the end of the day, though, looking at the pure just experience and who they've fought, I think Carnelossi does get this done by KO, TKO, whatever. Just with her pure experience and just being ready to throw down. She's already thrown down against Angela Hill. This right here should be a lock for her to win, but sprinkle a little bit on that KO line because that's going to be juicy. Next fight is Jeff Molina versus Kayleen Aori, another WLF promotion fighter coming over. It's very interesting how they pulled a lot of this Asian promotion over. It's really exciting, actually. Jeff Molina is coming in at the young age of 23, coming off a win of the Contender Series. Y'all already know that I love these Contender Series guys, but they're going to be huge fucking stars. I always go back to Sean O'Malley being a Contender Series star. He's exploded, and I think a lot of other people will be too. Molina, though, he is an exciting fighter and a finishing king. 7 of his 8 wins coming by way of finish. This right here is going to make the whole entire 125 division stand up. The flyweight division is a little shallow, so adding more people into that's really exciting as it is. But standing across from Molina is Aori. He's coming to the UFC on his debut with huge amount of momentum, where he's won 10 wins and 1 loss in his last 11 with 6 decisions. So he's going to grind out the entire time. He's not afraid to go to the judges. But he's a more veteran fighter with more fights, and even a fight lost against Kai Kara France, who is, I'd say, top 5 most exciting people in the flyweight division. With that, though, I think at the end of the day, Molina does get this done with being a more explosive and exciting fighter. I know I put a lot of weight in these exciting fighters and not these draggers, but when they're dragging out and not in the top places like Bellator, UFC, I think there's an issue with that. The people that are fighting are not as high level. So with Molina, he gets this done here. I'm not sure if he's going to finish it, but he will get this win. With the fighter starting at just 1-2, also Molina did, and Ryan lost 7 straight wins, it means something to me, especially at a young age. Facing that adversity, he gets this W here. So, hopping into the third fight of the night, Zhu Rong versus Vargas. Zhu Rong is also coming in for his debut fight in the UFC. Super fucking dangerous fighter, looking more likely to end Rodrigo Vargas' UFC time for right now, because he's on a 2-fight losing streak. It looks to me like they're putting some prospects against some guys that they're looking to maybe get out of the UFC. Kind of interesting approach to things, but I don't hate it. Zhu is also a masterful finisher though, and a super exciting fighter, coming in with 15 of his 16 wins by way of finish, 11 of these by KO. So he's not letting the judges decide here. 100% respect that. I think that should be everybody's approach. So mark this down for a fight you need to watch. The only downside of him, though, in this is his 3 losses by submission, which could be Vargas' probably only way to victory here. But at the end of the day here, I'd like to see this fight be a banger. I think he may win by KO. It's a sleeper fight of the night pick since it's so early in the fight card. With 13 fights, it's hard to remember those first couple fights. I'm just really crossing my fingers this doesn't drag out like the Whittaker-Gastelum fight did. But to pick this fight right here, you got to go Zhu Rong by way of KO. Fingers crossed, sprinkle on that. Definitely at money line. Next fight, Kevin Natividad versus Dana Batigrel. Don't know if I said that right, but we're going to go with it. Natividad is coming in off of a debut KO loss in the UFC. He's looking to right that wrong and show why the UFC brought him in from his previous 5-fight win streak. A dangerous striker. He is looking to compete with Batigrel, who is 1-1 in the UFC and has not fought since last March, but he won that fight by KO. The featherweight division is a super exciting division, especially with these 2 prospects. That featherweight division is tough to even see what's going on right now with Ultimate Fighter, Max Holloway, all that good stuff. But with these 2, they have clashing styles. Even with being the shorter man, though, I like Natividad to get it done. It's going to be knockout, drag-out, brawl, non-stop action. I would like to see him maybe go down to 135 if he does get this win, or even lose, because he's just so much smaller than a lot of these featherweights. And I think he would bring a lot of excitement and bring much more potential in that 135 division. But moneyline stand for Kevin Natividad in this fight. Hopping into these prelims some more, we're getting close to the main card. Pat Sabatini is coming in fighting Tristan Connolly. Pat Sabatini is coming off of a 2-fight impressive win streak in Cage Fury. He gets the call up to the UFC. The submission specialist is looking to add another fighter to his resume with Connolly. Connolly is coming off a decision win against the always exciting Michel Pereira in 2019. That's his last fight. He's looking to shake off some of that ring rust, which could be a problem. Some fighters say it is. Some fighters say it isn't a problem. We're going to see what happens with Pat Sabatini here against Tristan Connolly. With him being out for so long, this really could hurt him in those wrestling spots, grappling spots, all those good things. Even with Connolly being a submission pro himself, it's still tough to get that live action as a UFC fight is, because you don't know what's going to happen. For this fight, I think Sabatini gets it done. I'd like to see it be by finish, just make it a little bit more exciting, but if I had to bet, it's probably going to be by decision here. Coming into some of the bigger prelim fights, some of these main focus fights with some upcoming prospects. This is going to be Brendan Allen versus Carl Roberson. Brendan Allen is a huge up-and-coming prospect in the 185 division, and he's about to see why he's on that stardom path. His last fight was a loss against Sean Strickland, but Sean Strickland's shot up the rankings. I think he's ranked 14th now. He's going to go up even higher than that. Brendan Allen does have some impressive victories. He has a victory over Tom Breeze, Kyle Dawkins, and everybody's fucking fan favorite, the wrestling god himself, Kevin Holland. He beat Kevin Holland earlier. So with that, he's always exciting. I think he gets the W here against Carl Roberson, but Carl Roberson is coming in off a loss against Marvin Vettori by way of submission. Marvin Vettori, obviously everybody knows now, is in the contenders for the next middleweight championship. I think, obviously, that Whittaker gets that spot. Roberson has some notable wins, also adding Darren Stewart and Ryan Spann to his resume. Ryan Spann's a top dog too in the light heavyweight where he was before. With a 4-3 record and all 3 of his losses coming away by submission, and Brendan Allen, that being a submission specialist, I think this plays perfect for him to control the fight, control him on the ground, find that submission, and get back in the win column right here to get that taste out of his mouth from Sean Strickland's beating. The last two prelim fights, this one right here is Dwight Grant versus Stefan Suklak. Dwight Grant, another former Contender Series winner. I'm always going to ride with these guys. If y'all haven't noticed, that's going to be the complete path of every single one of my picks if I had to bet. He is coming in with a 500 record in the UFC at 2-2 and get the quick knockout loss out of his mouth of his last fight. Stefan, I'm not going to try to say his last name disrespecting. He is 0-1 in the UFC, but that fight was back in 2018. So it's little known on him since he is known maybe kind of for his submission and finishing in general. But with 9 of his 12 wins by finish and 6 of them by submission, so he definitely is known for that at the very least. Dwight Grant will have his hands full here. He's only a purple belt in jiu-jitsu and is aging at 36. He's trying to make a big splash right now, trying to come in quick. I think this is why him being on that edge of the fence of getting older, he gets this W here and kind of just rides that wave some more. The last fight before the main card, the fight that everybody's looking at, Cowboy Oliveira versus the always exciting Randy Brown. This one's going to be a fun one. One of my favorite fighters, Alex Cowboy Oliveira, steps in the octagon after his last loss by submission. He's also drawn a very tough fighter in Randy Brown, who is also coming off the brutal knee KO from Vicente Luque. Both these guys are coming in off of a loss, so they'll be out for blood and war, which this is going to be a completely fun fight to watch. So, with Cowboy Oliveira known to punch his way out of his problems and always had the capability to KO someone, this is going to be how I think Randy Brown will have his problems. He also kind of does the same thing. He will try to punch his way out, try to weather the storm. I'm basing my pick on this fight purely off of how much I like Cowboy, honestly, and just his pure experience. With Randy Brown being 6-4 in the UFC, he spent majority of his time in the UFC. Cowboy, on the other hand, though, is 11-7, 1 no contest. Cowboy has more wins than Randy Brown has fights in this scenario. That right there has to count for something, so I'm hammering the underdog right here in a very close fight, but let's go Cowboy Oliveira going forward. All right, now we're on to the main card. I'm bringing in my brother now, Reese. How you doing, bub?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm excited for these fights.
100%. This is going to be a super exciting pay-per-view. Probably one of the most bought pay-per-views as of this year. Not really saying much, but still very exciting. 3 title championships on this card. Let's hop into the first fight of the main card. The former title contender Anthony Smith versus the surging prospect Jimmy Crute. What are you thinking on this right here?
I think Anthony Smith is going to get the dub. And the reason why I say that is just because, yeah, he was on that little losing streak against Glover and then Rayek. But I think he got that big win, the first round submission against Devin Clark at the end of 2020. So I think he's going to make his comeback and get back on this win streak.
So what I'm thinking here, Reese, is Jimmy Crute, like I said, you know I love the Contender Series winners. Former Contender Series winner. He is 4-1 in the UFC, has some huge wins over Paul Craig, Sam Alvey, Modestas Bukauskas, finishing every single one. And the more impressive thing right here is he submitted Paul Craig, which is complete master on the ground. This is a huge step up, though, for Crute to see if he is ready for those top 5 fighters. Anthony Smith is the number 6 ranked fighter. Smith is starting to kind of become a stepping stone. He was tried like that for Devin Clark. Obviously, Devin Clark didn't get past him. But if you go back and watch that fight, Clark kind of looked scared the entire time. He didn't look like he was ready for that fight. I think with this, Crute is going to come in there. He's gonna be there. He's going to be all the way there. He's ready for that next step up. I also am looking at this scenario where Anthony Smith, yes, he did beat Devin Clark last fight, but he has not looked the same since he got the shit beat out of him by Glover Teixeira. He does not look the same at all. He's been a little timid. With Crute, I think he gets this done here. I think he's a more powerful person. He can do basically whatever he wants to Anthony Smith. So take Crute by decision and to win right here. What do you think?
I think Anthony Smith is more of the gatekeeper now in this division. So
you agree?
So I think he's going to come out and put his all onto it. He had that losing streak, like I said, so I think he's going to be a little pissed off. He beat Devin Clark because they're using him as a gatekeeper. I think he's going to try to prove himself to try to become a contender again. So I think Anthony Smith by knockout, 3rd round.
Okay, and that's fine. He definitely is 100% a gatekeeper, and he'll probably always be like that. I don't think he's ever going to be another title contender. He lost that to John Jones, and like I said, to get back on that horse, he got the shit beat out by Glover Teixeira. All in all, I think that's probably the end of the road for Anthony Smith ever being close to that top 5 again. Creed's going to hop over him. We can go back and forth on this all night. Let's hop into the fight before all 3 of these title fights. Uriah Hall versus Chris Weidman. I'm going to go ahead and take the lead on this because I think we're going to be on the same side. Uriah Hall is coming into this fight on a 3-fight win streak and retiring the longest reigning UFC middleweight, Anderson Silva. They're both crazy great fighters. They're both long UFC vets. Weidman is a former champ here, but Uriah Hall is a KO artist and a scary person being 9-7, but all he is just a bunch of runs. He's a bunch of losing streaks and winning streaks. I think this fight right here, Uriah Hall finally gets into his mindset and shows to Dana White that he's not too scared to finish these fights anymore, kind of like what he was against Anderson Silva. Chris Weidman, though, he's one of the greats. He did beat Anderson Silva in his prime, but his chin is giving out completely. I think Uriah Hall has the edge here and gets it done. If you look at Weidman's last 7 fights, he's 2-5. He has lost to killers, Yoel Romero, Dom Reyes, but the downside is every single one of those 5 losses is by the way of KO. If Hall touches him one fucking time clean, Weidman's lights are going out again. I love Chris Weidman, great guy, but it's about time to hang it up for him in my opinion.
I think Uriah Hall is also going to win. I'm on the same thing. I don't think Chris Weidman's been relevant since he knocked out Anderson Silva back in the day. And that was just because Anderson was being stupid. But that's just how Anderson used to fight. I think Uriah Hall got the big win against Anderson Silva. That was his guy he looked up to. Yeah. He loves Anderson Silva. So I think he's got that flame behind him now to really try to escalate his career in the UFC. If he gets this dub, he's gonna start getting these big fights coming up soon. So I think he's definitely gonna come out and definitely win this by knockout.
And if you look at that too, Chris Weidman beat Anderson Silva twice. Yeah, he knocked him out the first time, but that second fight, we don't know what's gonna happen because that's when Anderson Silva wrapped his entire leg around Chris Weidman's leg. Right. So that kind of was the end of for Anderson Silva. And we're kind of disrespecting Anderson Silva away and kind of disrespecting Uriah Hall because that's who he just beat back on Halloween. But you're exactly right. I think Hall will catch him here. He might piece him up. As long as he doesn't get taken down by Weidman because Weidman's such a great wrestler, Hall really has no other way. Or Hall's going to win this by ease, in my opinion. Weidman's only way is just to take him down and basically lay on him the entire fight. But let's get into what everybody's been waiting for, the 3 title fights. It's going to be a long night, everybody, because we don't know if these are going to go 30 minutes or be done in 5. The first fight of the night, Valentina Shevchenko, the GOAT, maybe besides Amanda Nunes, versus Jessica Andrade. So, Reese, I think this one's a pretty easy pick, but what are we thinking?
Definitely Valentina. She is disgusting. She's the best flyweight of all time. There's no argument with it. That southpaw stance, she destroys everybody. She's a dangerous fighter. I wouldn't fight her, and I'm 180 pounds. I mean, she is dangerous. Jessica Andrade, yeah, she's good. She's had her runs, but I think this could be an early knockout. To be honest with you, I don't think anybody in this division is gonna be able to compete for a while. Her sister's even good, and her sister's got a fight coming up too. So I think Valentina's just gonna run through this fight.
Yeah, and I agree with that. Jessica Andrade is going down in weight right now. She was a former title holder herself. She actually knocked out the girl coming up next, Rose Namajunas, by way of slam. But I think with her dropping down in weight, it's really interesting. I think this is perfect for her power. But she is significantly shorter than Shevchenko. She's 5 inches shorter. Or she's losing 5 inches of reach, I think, give or take 5 inches shorter than her. Shevchenko is one of the GOATs. She has 3 losses. 2 of them are Amanda Nunes, 1 by unanimous decision. Her last fight against Nunes, though, was a split decision. I think it could have went either way. Valentina, though, is going to just straight use her length, size, and keep Andrade at distance, piece her up, might kind of grapple a little bit, take her down. I just don't think Andrade has much answers. This will be Shevchenko's toughest test yet. We did see Shevchenko lose a round to Maya in her last fight, but I don't see much of a difference with Andrade coming down with Shevchenko. I think this is going to be her toughest test, but in the championship rounds, Shevchenko gets it done. She gets it done by KO. Like you said, completely agree. Let's lock that shit in. And let's go into the next fight. No more discussion there. So, Let's look at Rose Namajunas coming in to challenge Wei Li, who just had a complete war against Joanna Jędrzejczyk. Rose Namajunas has not fought besides her fight against Jessica Andrade, which she won by split decision. She's coming straight to that title. She's coming for fucking war. She's ready. She's in her right mindset. Without going into it real quick, Rose Namajunas wins this fight. Do you agree?
I think Rose is gonna win too. She's already had the title. She's already had it. She wants it back. I think she's the best strawweight. I think she's gonna beat Zhang Weili without a doubt. Zhang's a powerful striker. Don't get me wrong. She's got one of the toughest hands in the game. I mean, if you saw her last fight, all out war, could have been fight of the year. I mean,
it was fight of the year.
That's right. It was fight of the year. So all out war. She doesn't care. She's gonna stand and bang with you. She doesn't at all. So I think Rose also doesn't care neither. So Rose is going to go in there, different mindset. She wants the title back. She's going to get this win. I think by decision. I don't think it's going to be a knockout. But
we're going to hear and new. And in my opinion, this is the only and new we're going to hear all night. So Rose Namajunas beat Joanna Jędrzejczyk 2 times in a row and showed how great she was. But that put the spotlight on Rose. And Rose, I don't think, was ready for that spotlight. She even said that. She said she did not want that title back for a very long time. So she got her head right. But now that she got that Jessica Andrade fight back and she won by split decision, she kind of got that slam out of her head, that skittishness out. She got punched in the face. She figured it out. Zhang Weili, though, is coming in 21-1 and has not lost since her first pro fight. So that means she's 21-0 since then. She had one of the best fights of all time, in my opinion. I think if you talk to someone and said, hey, what UFC fight should I sit down and watch? That's probably one of my top 2 that I tell you to watch. Is Joanna Jędrzejczyk, Zhang Weili. But with all of that, I think you look at that fight right there. Zhang Weili won by split decision. Rose dominated Joanna on both of her fights. I think right here you have to give it to Rose in this scenario. Give her that title back. It's going to be a fun run for her after that. Also, there's a little added heat. I'm not going to get into this too much, but Rose did have some comments recently on communism in the China state right now and how it kind of affected Rose to a way because she came from that. Her family came from that. That's something to watch coming up to these fights, these weigh-ins, these stare-downs. All in all, let's give it to Rose and new, and she's going to get that title back. Market decision. The main event, Reese and I have already hashed it out on here one time before about Jorge. It's going to be a fun argument. I already know it's going to be. Main event of the evening, Usman versus Masvidal. Do I think Masvidal deserves his title shot? Hell fucking no. But he gets it. Usman gets that fucking money. Reese, go ahead and tell everybody that you think Jorge's going to win.
Jorge's going to win. Y'all don't understand. Jorge's going to win. He might be number 4 ranked welterweight, but he's number 1, about to be the champ. You're going to hear Anu. He's going to knock Marty Snoozman the fuck out. Cannot stand this guy. And I think Jorge's going in. He's pissed off. If y'all have ever seen the Game Bread documentary, he came out last year, The Street Fighter, talks about how much he dislikes Kamaru, how he's got some of the best wrestlers in his camp now. So I think it's without a doubt Jorge's going to win by knockout. And especially if Kamaru tries to stand and bang like he did with Gilbert in the first 2 rounds. Gilbert called him in the first round. I thought Kamaru was going to lose. But then Kamaru found that gas tank. But if you look at Jorge, look at the last fight. Jorge never gassed out until the end, and that's because the weight cut. The weight cut killed him. When you cut that much weight in so little time, you lose your gas tank. But now you got a 6-week camp. Jorge's going to get this by knockout.
I want to touch on that weight cut here in a second. I'm not going to hit it right real quick. I'm just going to give you what I'm thinking with Usman. Masvidal, it's going to go 2 ways. Masvidal knocks him out, or Usman should completely dominate him again and just clinch up with him. The only way Masvidal wins this if he fixes his clinch ability, which he has had time. He's not on short notice. But Usman is the number 2 pound-for-pound best fighter in the UFC. The only person ahead of him is John Jones. So Usman is a complete wrestling skill, all in all, clinch skill, just drowning tough. He just wears you down. Masvidal cannot handle that. You watched him last time. Yeah, it didn't look like Masvidal was getting hurt too bad, but Masvidal couldn't do shit. He was getting his foot stomped, which was annoying. But Usman's kind of been funny about that ever since. Masvidal did come in on 1 week notice, like you said. But I was sitting here listening to Daniel Cormier's podcast with Errol Hawani, right? So the problem with that is he did cut a lot of weight, but he was going to be the bigger fighter in that fight because when he cut all that weight down and you rehydrate and get that food back into you, you balloon back to about where you were at before. Jorge's training around 176, 177. He cut from the 180s his last fight. So he was probably around 180s in his last fight. He's going to be around 176. So he's going to be smaller, going to be tougher to get Usman off of him. Also, Usman could be one of the greatest fighters of all time. We really don't know that yet. But I'm thinking with how much of a drowning wrestler he is, and he's a damn good striker if you watch his striking fights, he gets this done. It's going to be another fucking easy 50-45 win. I don't think Masvidal gets a single round in this fight. The thing that hurts, I do like Masvidal. I just don't think he deserved this. I think you could give this to Colby, or just let Colby, Jorge fight. That's a lot better. Jorge, I do give Jorge props, and I really respect that Jorge set out and just waited to become that next challenger. He didn't have to set out. He could have fought, but he set out, and the UFC gave it to him because they knew he was going to make that money. This is going to be such a convincing win to me, though. It doesn't hurt Jorge because he has so many fights lined up after this. You have to give it to Usman. I just don't see how Jorge gets this done. I don't think he's going to be any better. He has to fight a perfect fight to beat Usman or get that lucky KO win like he did against Askren to shoot him up and start him.
Well, let me go back to the weight cut. So if you watch Street Fighter documentary, he goes on there. Dude was overweight an hour before he got there. Dude was laying in hot baths, towels over him, sending saunas constantly, day by day, for that whole week. Wasn't training much while he was in the hotel, quarantine and stuff like that. So with putting your body through that, it drains you. Yes, he's a heavy fighter, but his body is physically drained. So
I understand that.
When it goes to your fight, you're fighting for 25 minutes, your gas tank goes out. And then when you're fighting a guy who just wants to pin you against a damn cage and stomp on your fucking feet, I mean, you get tired of holding the dumb motherfucker. I mean,
it's MMA though, man. You got to control every aspect.
Well, and then Kamaru was only 5 for 16 on takedowns. Dude is a nasty wrestler. Was only 5 for 16, and Jorge was on a fucking 6-8 nose. Kamaru is not going to pin him against Cage no more. I don't think it's going to happen. Them fucking stomps on his fucking feet. You saw Jorge the fucking week later got up in the interview with Ariel Wine, did the fucking Yoel Romero dance. So I think Kamaru is going to come out, try to do the same shit. It's not going to work. Jorge's going to keep his distance, use his leg kicks he does, the body kicks. He's going to catch Kamaru. Kamaru's going to try to eventually shoot. And I think Jorge's just going to stand and bang. The takedowns ain't going to work. I think Jorge's takedown defense is unreal for not being a wrestler. Jorge is by far, hands down, the best striker in all of UFC.
And that's fine.
No chance anybody's better than him. So Kamaru stands, he's getting knocked the fuck out quick. It ain't going to be a shot.
Striking's one aspect, though. You got to be a good wrestler. Yeah, he went 5 for 16, but he still took him down 5 times. The thing is that's not showing on the stats is the amount of time, the amount of control time, and the amount of clinch time that Jorge could not get out of. And the thing that everybody's missing on this, Jorge was on 1 week notice, but Kamaru had to prepare for a different, complete fighter in Jorge. I know it's not the same thing as apples and oranges, but it's still a 1 week notice for Kamaru, to fight Jorge, which is such a scary fighter. And the thing, I'm going back to this right now, and I know a lot of people don't agree with this. Jorge would not be in this boat right now if he wouldn't knocked out Askren with that fucking knee. He was an exciting fighter, but Ben Askren, he hyped up this Jake Paul fight. He got Jorge on this train. Jorge has also been really up and down his career, which is hard to trust such a journeyman, quote unquote. I know he's not now because he's a title contender, but he's been a journeyman all his career through Strikeforce. He has went on a run in 2019, a 2-year layoff after that. He KO'd Darren Till, and then he KO'd Askren. Then he TKO'd Nate Diaz, earning him the title shot. Do I think he deserved that title shot after he beat Nate Diaz? Fuck no. They're both journeymen in my opinion. But why wouldn't you put the biggest money earner besides Conor McGregor in a title shot against Marty, which, like you said, you're not wrong. Marty is a boring fighter.
In a sold-out crowd in Jacksonville. No, I mean, it's going to be nuts.
It makes sense why this is the first fight with fans back, and it makes sense to put your biggest money maker on there in Masvidal. I understand it from the business aspect. Do I agree with giving Masvidal this title shot? No, I will keep saying that. But, like I said, Jorge is not losing in this regardless if he wins or loses. If he wins, that's great. You got a Marty trilogy. You got a Nate Diaz if Nate Diaz beats Leon. You got a Colby. That's a lot of fights. If he loses, you still got the Nate fight. You still got the Colby Covington fight. He's in a win-win scenario all the way around, and he's gotten huge, and that's great for the sport. All eyes on the sport. I just think, all in all, Marty is a better all-around fighter. Masvidal is a fun, exciting guy, but he's still riding that fucking wave. Everybody thinks he's the best fighter in the world because he's beaten a journeyman and a kind of worn-down Nate Diaz and knocked out Ben Askren. And like I said in the first episode, if that fight wouldn't have been ended by the knockout in 6 seconds, whatever it was by knee, I still think Askren probably could have pulled it off because he was going to do the exact same game plan Marty had. And we see how well Masvidal does in those fights.
Well, you say a worn down Nate Diaz. You got to think, a couple months before that, Nate knocked out. Or not knocked out. He beat Anthony Pettis. Anthony Pettis is nasty. And
that's fine.
So you got the BMF. Now, don't get me wrong. I love Nate Diaz. And I think that fight, if it goes 4th and 5th round, I think it is a completely different fight because that's when Nate shows up. He finally shows up. But I think Jorge's still going to win. I think he might end up knocking Nate out, to be honest with you.
He probably would have.
But Jorge, you got to think, knocked out Darren Till. Darren Till is one of the best in the sport.
Middleweight. But on the other end, though, Darren Till kind of revered himself. I love Darren Till. But who has he really beaten? He's lost in the middleweight division against Whitaker, and is he still talking about him when he gets a title shot? So it's a little up in there. Darren Till is great, but it's hard to hang your hat on that.
No, yeah. And, yeah, he knocked out Ben Askren. We all see Ben Askren's a fucking scrub now. I mean, yeah, he was that big Bellator guy, but we see how that's working out. He got knocked the fuck out by Jake Paul. So,
boxing.
Anyways, it doesn't fucking matter. That Ben Askren fight, yeah, that got Jorge, I guess you can say, more publicity just because of it. 100%. But you got to think, Jorge wasn't even in really. He was like the second fight in the main card that fight. So
that's all anybody cared about after that.
Yeah, but either way, that can happen with anybody. But you got to look at the fights before. You got to think on April 20th of 2013, he made his debut with Yoel and DC. It just came out.
Cool.
So I mean, you got to think he's been a big name in the sport for a while. It's just the sport just now is reaching out to everybody. Back then, yeah, people watched, but one like it was now, it wasn't selling millions and millions of pay-per-views unless you had like a Brock Lesnar or something like that back in the day, or a Chuck Liddell. People didn't really watch it, and back then it wasn't really as technical as now. Back then it was, let's stand in here for fucking 15 to 25 minutes and just knock each other's fucking heads off.
But you would think that would help out Jorge, because Jorge is just a stand and bang type of guy. But Jorge went on losing streaks, winning streaks. He was up and down all of his career until he hit this run where he knocked out Till, then Askren.
Right, he was the fighter of the year in 2019.
And that's fine. But, like, you can be the fighter of the year when you had the biggest knockout probably in UFC's history. But, no offense to Masvidal, but what has he done since besides get 50-45 and completely dominated against Usman? I guess we're going to see this.
Which I disagree with that. I think Jorge won round one of that fight because there was no clinching and grappling in that round one. Jorge has gassing the whole time and was piecing them up. So I think it should have been 49-46, but either way, Jorge lost.
Yeah, and the thing is, too, regardless of this fight, this is going to be huge. UFC is making a fuck ton of money on this. Masvidal is bringing this in. Like I said, he's going to have a million options to fight next, regardless if he wins or loses. He has that Usman trilogy if he wins. He has that Nate fight if he wins or if Nate wins or loses. If, say, Masvidal wins the championship, he could fight Leon Edwards if Leon Edwards beats Nate.
Yeah, and y'all already know they have that beef together. The little three-piece in soda, he almost fucked Leon Edwards up just in backstage. So Jorge doesn't care. So I think Jorge wins this. I really do. 100% believe Jorge's winning this fight. I think Kamaru's run is going to end. I think then the trilogy is going to happen in September. They're not even going to roll with the Colby or the Nate or the Leon. I think what's going to end up happening, Jorge's winning Kamaru Jorge trilogy in September or October. And then the winner of the Leon Nate is going to end up fighting Colby. I think Gilbert's pretty much done for a while.
Gilbert has a fight coming up, for sure.
He's gonna be bouncing around the little top 5 fighting. But I think UFC's looking for money right now. They lost all this money during COVID. with the fans and everything. So I think they're going to be doing Leon Colby or Nate Colby. So that's why I think it's going to end up happening. And then Jorge Kamara trilogy come September, October.
Regardless of what happens, like I said, this is a fucking huge win for the UFC. Grabbing the biggest selling star minus Conor McGregor. While I disagree with you completely, Reese, I think you've never been more wrong in your fucking life. Masvidal is completely on a different level than Usman. When I say different level, I mean completely below Usman. But we're going to see Saturday. We got some exciting fights coming up.
Yeah, you're going to hear and new come Saturday.
He thinks 2 times and new. I think 1 time with Rose. Regardless, it's going to be fun. I promise you that it's going to be probably one of the best fights or pay-per-views of this year. Even with the Stipe and Ngannou fight, I think this fight card right here is just going to top that completely. I honestly want to make a bet with Reese personally about this. I think if Masvidal wins, we got to figure out something because I'm just not on his train at all. We'll figure out something. We'll post about it. It's like I said, it's just not going to happen. I don't think there's any possible way this even happens. To stop going back and forth on this, I just want to go through my picks real quick, and then we're going to hop into some MMA news. So, like I did last week, I'm going to hit every single pick, tell you what they are right now. Like I said, the odds are probably going to change. So if you like these odds, hop on them quick. If you think they're going to change, wait a little bit. But we're going to go Karen at minus 210. We're going to go Jeffrey Molina at minus 110. Zhu Rong at minus 280. We're going to go Kevin Natividad, the underdog, at plus 160 right now. Patrick Sabatini at minus 230. Brendan Allen at minus 152. Dwight Grant at minus 230. Another underdog pick, Cowboy Oliveira at plus 126. Going into the main card now, Jimmy Crute at minus 210. Reese likes Anthony Smith in this fight. He is plus 168. Pick whoever you want. Just to give you an inside look in this, the fights we picked together, I went 3-2 on the main card. Reese went 2-3. So keep that in mind when we're rolling with picks. Fade me if you want, but I made money last week. The next fight after that is Chris Weidman versus Uriah Hall. Uriah Hall is a slight underdog right now at plus 104. Reese and I agree on that fight. And then the next 3 championship fights is Valentina Shevchenko minus 400. Huge favorite. Not really. It's pretty hard to make money on this, but still sprinkle on there if you want basically a guaranteed win. Then we got Rose Namajunas versus Zhang Wei Li. Rose Namajunas, both Reese and I also agree on this. Rose is a plus 160 underdog. Then in the main event, Reese and I are completely different on this. This is going to decide basically the fight picks between both of us. I like Usman minus 400. Huge favorite. It's tough to win money on these favorites, but like I said, maybe parlay this with Shenko, get a couple extra bucks. Reese likes Jorge Masvidal plus 300. That's fucking juicy. I don't hate it. I might just throw a couple bucks on there just because it's so juicy. But when besides these odds, I like Usman. Reese likes Masvidal. Those are the picks right there, guys.
Final round. Fight.
So the last round, like we like to say, is the MMA news round. We're going to be breaking down or talking about a couple different things. I have Reese here. The last thing we're going to be talking about, though, is the Jake Paul Ben Askren. Let's just touch on a couple things real quick. I talked about last week the McGregor-Poirier situation where Poirier was coming at McGregor for the charity. Poirier actually issued an apology about this. It looks like a little bit of miscommunication. McGregor still hasn't paid up for what I see, but they were finally also announced, so McGregor kind of pulled that bluff again that he was not going to fight him. Also, Blachowicz versus Cher, the light heavyweight championship, it was announced, which is really exciting that Glover, at the old age, I believe he's almost 40 now, is getting that title shot. Invicta FC, which is a women's fight promotion, was purchased. Super excited. I'm really happy that these girls finally got a bigger chance to shine. Let's talk about Bellator real quick. My picks last week went 2-0. I know I picked favorites, but when the favorites are winning, why am I going to go against that? We also have a Showtime card for Bellator coming up in a couple weeks, which is main evented by Yoel Romero versus Anthony Rumble Johnson. So that's going to be super exciting and one to watch in the future. I would like to touch on ONE FC. I've talked about this each and every episode. It's just starting to piss me off now. I'm getting to the point where I don't even want to watch it, even though it's MMA on during the week. This fight card right here, I talked about Christian Lee versus Timofey Nasty Yukin, I believe. Christian Lee beats Timofey, but it ended in such a controversy. He knocked him down on one bunch, and then the ref just hopped in and just ended the fight, even though he wasn't TKO'd or anything. These refs are really fucking pissing me off at this point. They need to be, I don't want to say talk, because they know what they're doing, but when you're ending fights like Eddie Alvarez, you're giving the DQ, even though the guy was faking it. In this situation right here, where the guy's still wrestling around and rolling around, and call it a TKO, it's tough to get behind a brand that has such a high potential and is now available to watch on TNT. So please, ONE FC, figure this out. You have some great fighters in this. You have some Sage Northcutt is in this, an old UFC fighter. So please figure this out, get this together, and get these refs under control so we stop ruining good fights in the first fucking round. So, Reese, let's talk about a couple things. Eddie Alvarez was rumored to box Oscar De La Hoya. He has this new fight announced on April 28th, I believe. So, what next thing was, Ben Askren tweeted out, and you saw the videos with Tyron Woodley and Jake Paul's, I guess, friend, trainer, whatever he was, bitching back and forth. I thought it was a little disrespectful to Tyron Woodley, one of the better fighters. Yes, he's washed up now in the welterweight, but I thought it was pretty fucking shitty what they were talking shit on Woodley about. And now Jake Paul, being the fucking marketing genius he is, it's tough not to like that, is trying to get a Woodley fight set up. He also called out Daniel Cormier. Daniel Cormier said, fuck no, we're not doing that. But T. Wood is talking about fighting Jake Paul's trainer. What do you think about this?
I think Tyron Woodley will destroy them. Like Daniel Cormier said, we sent fucking Ben Askren from the UFC to go fight in boxing.
Yeah,
and the dude's a wrestler.
And he had a 1940s stance, too.
Yeah, he looked like an idiot. And yeah, Ben Askren's cool and all. Like, I have nothing against Ben Askren, but you don't send the fucking wrestler, for one, who got knocked out by Jorge, and like Ben Askren said today, the most embarrassing thing ever was getting knocked out by Jorge, and he equals that with Jake Paul. So, I get it, but I think you get Tyron Woodley or somebody that knows how to strike. Like DC said, like a Luke Rockhold. I think Jake Paul has no shot. But also, if Jake Paul wants to get all cocky and try to call out these UFC fighters, why don't he grow the fucking balls and be like, you know what, you come see me in boxing, I'll see you in UFC.
I agree with that. And the thing is, too, we're referencing DC a lot, but DC said, too, you see Ben Askren, he's at 190. He's bloated. Yes, he's not the most appealing person in the world, but that's way above his weight class, 20 pounds more than what he normally fights at. So like DC said, call a middleweight out. Call a Luke Rockhold out. Call somebody out that's your fucking weight and box someone worth the shit. Don't box a wrestler that doesn't know how to strike. Calling out Dylan Danis, which is Conor McGregor's guy, that's probably going to be the next fight. It's going to probably bring more eyes than this Ben Askren fight did. But Jake Paul gets it. The fact that he's not going to fight probably a professional boxer like Tommy Fury that's calling him out, Tyson's brother, or someone's worth the shit at striking in the UFC. If Daniel Cormier actually wanted to put on boxing gloves and walk in there with Jake Paul wouldn't stand a fucking chance. I was on Ben Askren's side, just hoping to God he would beat Jake Paul. But Jake Paul gets to see another day as a pretend fighter, pretend quote unquote, because he could beat the fuck out of me. It's just tough to see Ben Askren get KO'd. I thought at first it was a early stoppage. You're watching the front side, Thriller, whatever the fuck it is. The production was so fucking weird. In the middle of the fight, they stopped, put the video on there to put it over to Pete Davidson and Mario Lopez taking a selfie. So it was just an all-around weird night. The concerts is what I paid $50 for, which is cool, I guess. It's just tough to see Ben Askren get knocked out. He stood up pretty fucking quick. I think it was more surprise, and then he walked over to the ref, stumbled. Ref called it off. I can see either way. Ben Askren is a goofy guy, and he walks funny. But you know what? Paul was going to win regardless. So sucks, but Jake Paul gets to pretend another day. I just hope that whoever he fights next, I hope it's not Dylan Danis, because he'll do the exact same thing to Dylan Danis.
Right, and I hope he doesn't try to call out like a Conor McGregor or Floyd, because like I was telling people earlier, they're 150 pounds. Like, Jake Paul walks around at like 220. Yeah. That right there just isn't fair. And I still think them at 150 would slump Jake. Like, yeah, clearly Jake might not be the whole truth. Jake clearly knows how to box, but I don't think he's on the level of everybody like professionally is. I think Jake's just, an average boxer that's fighting these washed up people like Nate Robinson. That shit should never happen.
He's not a fighter.
Ben Askren, okay, dude was a wrestler. That's how he became famous in fucking Bellator and then UFC. I mean, he was known for his wrestling. Was never known for striking. If you got Jorge in there, Jorge's knocking him out. If you get Tyrone in there, Tyrone's knocking him out. So I think you get somebody that knows how to strike. I think it's a different story.
Yeah, and he's not going to do that. He wants to keep that professional record. It's more than likely going to be Dylan Danis next, and then if he beats Dylan Danis, that gives Conor McGregor even a more reason to go and fight him. I want to highlight a couple of things, though, on this pay-per-view that was fun. Justin Bieber killed it. They had a slap boxing fight in it. Ric Flair commentated it, reffed it, whatever. That was fun. Pete Davidson was walking around being the sideline reporter. Did not look like he wanted to be there whatsoever. He was asking Jake Paul his favorite color, then walked over to Ben Askren and telling him how much he fucking hated Jake Paul. I just thought that was all around pretty fucking funny. Pete Davidson was walking around with Snoop Dogg, talking about smoking weed and doing drugs together. Just that right there was probably the best part of the pay-per-view, was just Pete Davidson being himself. I want to gripe about one fucking thing. I get it in the West Coast if you have a crowd. They had a couple people in the crowd, but not that much. When almost 50% of the U.S. population is on the East Coast and you're starting this fucking main pay-per-view fight at 1 o'clock, I damn near fell asleep. Make the shit earlier. Come on, make this shit earlier. If there's a crowd, I'll reason with it. There's not a crowd right now. Why not make this fight, start at 11 o'clock? Start early. I know it's early West Coast time, but you have to figure that out because it's just so tough to reason with paying $50 and then going to sleep, because that's what I almost damn near did if Justin Bieber wouldn't have walked out there. I just can't understand that, but we're looking forward to Jake Paul probably fighting Dylan Danis, knocking him out, and then calling out Conor McGregor, getting his head even bigger. You have anything else to add to this, Reese?
No, I think Jake Paul's gonna find his match here soon. I mean, yeah, he proved to everybody he's not just a scrub fighter that can beat Nate Robinson and shit like that. So yeah, he did beat Ben Askren. Can't take away from him. Ben Askren is a professional fighter, regardless of what anybody says. Yeah, he might not be known for striking. Still, he's in the UFC and Bellator. You strike. I mean, so either way, you can't take it away from Jake Paul. But however, I think it's a different story if you fight a guy who's actually trained in boxing. Ben Askren was never fully trained in boxing. So, can't take away from him. Congrats to Jake Paul, but I think he's meeting this match here soon.
Yeah, well, in conclusion, really, guys, shout out to Frank Mir. He went the distance with the actual pro fighter, Steve Cunningham. But just to get away from all of this, because we'll just go around in circles because we both agree on this, there's a lot of exciting upcoming fights here. Reese will be on here again. I appreciate you being here for the end of this fight because I know this was something you were looking forward to. But yeah, guys, so please subscribe to my YouTube at Chasing Knockouts. Reach out to me on Twitter and Instagram at It's Chase Watson for any suggestions, questions, comments if you want to be on this show. So remember, guys, that I have some shirts going on sale soon. Reach out to that. I also want to throw a quick sponsorship, our first sponsor, quote unquote, at the end of this to see if y'all get here. It's Hannah Creates. With signs, it's anything that you want, really. If you search that on Facebook and Hannah Creates on Instagram, it's got one extra S at the end. If you use my code KNOCKOUT10, you get 10% off your order. So that's that first sponsor on that. So yeah, guys, I appreciate you listening. Subscribe to my Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, anything like that. Do you have anything else to add to this, Reese?
Yeah, if y'all listen to this, tweet at Chase some suggestions on what we should bet for the Jorge fight, and we'll post a video on it afterwards.
Yeah, so yeah, guys, let's go Usman. Reese wants Masvidal to win, and let's continue chasing knockouts.